This was not just another diplomatic conversation. It was strategically timed, and the precision of that timing speaks volumes. Just hours before President Zelenskyy was set to land in Washington for one of the most critical meetings of his political career, Vladimir Putin picked up the phone and reached out to Donald Trump. The call was unexpected, but not uncalculated. Every second, every word, every pause in such communication carries meaning. In the world of global strategy, timing is often the message. By placing this call so close to Zelenskyy's visit, Putin ensured that attention would shift, even if momentarily, from Ukraine's plea for support to his own sudden re-entry into the geopolitical spotlight. It was a move designed to remind Washington, and indeed the entire world, that Moscow still knows how to play the psychological game of power. Behind closed doors, no cameras, no official statements, no transcripts. Just two figures who have both shaped recent history in their own ways, now engaging in a conversation whose content remains shrouded in mystery. Was it a gesture of diplomacy, a warning, or a signal of something more strategic? Analysts across the globe are scrambling to decode its intent. Diplomatic insiders note that such a call, coming at such a delicate moment, can shift the tone of an entire negotiation. It casts a long shadow over the corridors of power, especially when the stakes involve weapons as critical as Tomahawk missiles. For Zelenskyy, it means entering Washington not with full confidence, but with a lingering uncertainty, a sense that the chessboard has changed in the final moments before the meeting even begins. Putin's timing wasn't coincidence. It was a calculated stroke of political theater. It reminds his opponents, and his observers, that he still knows how to disrupt the rhythm of others' plans without firing a single shot. The very act of calling, at that particular moment, forces everyone involved to reconsider their next move. It's not just what was said that matters, it's when and why it was said at all. Every action in geopolitics sends a message, sometimes louder than any speech, and sometimes quieter, but far more unsettling. This call wasn't about courtesy, and it certainly wasn't a simple diplomatic formality. It was about influence, the kind that doesn't need an office, an army, or even a formal agreement to make its presence felt. In the high-stakes arena of international power, gestures often speak louder than declarations, and this was one of those gestures. Putin understands the language of perception better than most leaders alive today. By reaching out to Donald Trump, a former U.S. president who still holds enormous sway over public opinion and political circles, he wasn't just making a phone call. He was reminding the world that his influence can stretch beyond borders and beyond administrations. It was a move designed to reassert his relevance, to demonstrate that even when he's not sitting across the negotiation table, his voice can still be heard in the rooms where decisions are made. This single act, a simple conversation between two men, rippled far beyond its immediate context. It subtly inserted Russia back into the American conversation, shifting focus away from Ukraine's urgent requests for military support and toward questions about internal U.S. divisions and loyalties. By choosing this moment, Putin didn't just engage in diplomacy, he engaged in narrative control. He reminded Washington that while policies change with elections, power dynamics rarely do, and those who master timing and perception can continue to shape events long after the headlines fade. Observers note that such moves are classic examples of strategic influence operations, not overt aggression, but psychological maneuvering, the kind that keeps adversaries uncertain, allies cautious, and everyone else guessing. Putin's call may not have altered any official policies overnight, but it successfully reframed the conversation, forcing policymakers and analysts alike to reevaluate what leverage really looks like in the modern era.
For Ukraine, the timing could not be worse. After months of tense negotiations, back-channel diplomacy, and countless public appeals, the nation had been holding its breath, waiting for the long-anticipated U.S. green light on the Tomahawk missiles. These are not just weapons, they represent a potential turning point in Ukraine's defense strategy, a tool that could shift the balance of power on the battlefield and give the country a new sense of control over its own security. Every discussion in Kyiv, from military command rooms to cabinet meetings, has revolved around this very decision, because the introduction of Tomahawks would mean reaching targets far beyond the current limitations of Ukraine's arsenal. Ukrainian defense planners have already drawn up integration plans, supply routes, and training schedules for the crews who would operate them. The anticipation has been intense, not just among soldiers on the front lines, but among civilians who see this support as a symbol that the West still stands firmly behind them. Yet, with one unexpected phone call, that sense of momentum has faltered. The political air around Washington has thickened, and every new headline only adds to the unease in Kyiv. Diplomatic insiders describe the atmosphere as one of strategic suspense. The Ukrainian government, aware of how quickly perceptions can shift, now faces the challenge of maintaining optimism while quietly bracing for potential disappointment. Behind closed doors, advisors debate whether the missile package will be delayed, scaled down, or quietly set aside altogether. Each scenario carries its own set of risks, both military and psychological. In the meantime, the troops on the ground continue to fight with what they have, uncertain whether reinforcements in the form of advanced weaponry will ever arrive. The timing of Putin's move has, intentionally or not, injected a new layer of anxiety into Ukraine's strategic planning. What was once a moment of cautious hope has turned into a waiting game, where every statement from Washington is analyzed for hidden meaning, and every silence feels heavier than the last. The U.S. administration now stands at a defining crossroads, one that will test not only its strategic judgment but also its moral resolve. On one side lies the choice to double down on military aid to Ukraine, sending a clear message that Washington will not back down in the face of Russian pressure. This path would mean approving the long-requested Tomahawk missiles, expanding logistical support, and reinforcing NATO's eastern flank. Yet such a move carries undeniable risks. Every additional step toward escalation tightens the tension with Moscow, increasing the likelihood of miscalculation, retaliation, or a direct confrontation that could spill far beyond Ukraine's borders. On the other hand, there's the path of restraint, to slow the pace, to wait, to explore whether a new diplomatic opening can be found in the shadow of Putin's latest maneuver. Those advocating this route argue that another round of dialogue, however fragile, might prevent a broader regional war. But slowing down comes at its own cost. For Ukraine, any delay in support is felt immediately on the front lines, where every lost day can mean lost ground, lost infrastructure, and lost lives. It also risks sending an unintended message, that Western unity is wavering, that U.S. leadership is second-guessing itself at a crucial hour. Inside Washington, this dilemma has sparked intense debate among policymakers, advisors, and military strategists. Some believe that strength must be shown through decisive action, that hesitation would only embolden Russia to push further. Others warn that unchecked escalation could drag America into a prolonged conflict with unpredictable consequences. The president must balance these competing pressures, from allies urging boldness, from diplomats urging caution, and from domestic voices questioning how far American commitment should go. This is not merely a policy decision, it's a test of global leadership. The world watches closely, measuring every statement, every movement, every pause for what it might imply. For the administration, each option carries weight not only in geopolitical terms but in the moral narrative of this war, a narrative that will define how history remembers America's role in one of the most dangerous power struggles of the 21st century. This isn't just about Ukraine or Russia, it's about something much larger, something that cuts to the heart of global power itself, who controls the narrative. In today's world, wars are not fought only on the ground or in the skies. They are fought in the realm of perception, in the media, in markets, in the corridors of influence, and across the digital platforms where information moves faster than diplomacy ever can. The story that dominates global headlines often dictates which side gains leverage, which policy gets adopted, and which leader commands the confidence of the international community. When two of the world's most powerful men, one former, one current, engage in an unexpected conversation, the shockwaves are immediate and far-reaching. It's not just journalists who scramble to interpret the meaning, it's heads of state, military advisors, and market analysts who start recalculating their assumptions. Financial markets react instinctively, shifting as investors try to anticipate whether tension will escalate or ease. Capitals from Berlin to Beijing pause, quietly assessing what this development might signal for alliances, trade routes, and upcoming negotiations. In this age of hyperconnectivity, even a rumor can shift billions of dollars and redefine months of strategic planning. The fact that Putin and Trump can still command such instantaneous global attention, without issuing a single statement, speaks volumes about their lingering influence over the international stage. For Putin, it reinforces the image of a leader who refuses to be sidelined, a man who can still pull the focus of world politics toward himself. For Trump, it reminds both allies and rivals that his voice continues to carry weight, even outside the White House. Meanwhile, for other world leaders, the unpredictability of such interactions creates an atmosphere of calculated hesitation. Decisions that were once moving forward, defense agreements, diplomatic visits, or sanctions packages, can suddenly stall, awaiting clarity. Each leader understands that perception can either strengthen or undermine their own position at home and abroad. And in this constant tug-of-war for narrative dominance, truth often becomes secondary to timing, symbolism, and the power of spectacle. This is the essence of modern geopolitics, where influence is measured not just in weapons or wealth, but in the ability to shape what the world believes is happening. A single unexpected conversation between two influential figures can alter the rhythm of diplomacy, shift the balance of confidence, and rewrite the storyline that everyone else is forced to react to. Finally, the world must ask a difficult and uncomfortable question: can America still be seen as a reliable ally when its internal divisions are laid bare for the entire world to witness? In an era where political rivalries in Washington often spill beyond borders, the strength of U.S. alliances is no longer measured solely by military power or economic influence, but by consistency, the ability to speak with one voice in times of crisis. Every shift in domestic politics, every public disagreement between parties, every conflicting statement from leaders echoes across oceans, reshaping how America's partners and adversaries interpret its resolve. For allies like Ukraine, this uncertainty is not theoretical, it's existential. Kyiv's leadership knows that its survival depends not only on battlefield tactics or morale, but on the continuity of Western support. When U.S. politicians debate the scale or timing of military aid, those discussions aren't just policy arguments, they're lifelines hanging in the balance. The world has seen moments when America's commitments wavered, when promises made abroad were slowed by political stalemate at home, and each time, confidence in American leadership took a silent hit. In the case of Ukraine, these fractures come at the worst possible moment. President Zelenskyy arrives in Washington carrying both hope and anxiety, knowing that every handshake, every press conference, every closed-door discussion may reveal clues about where America truly stands. The stakes could not be higher. For him, this visit is more than a diplomatic formality, it is a test of whether the United States, the cornerstone of the Western alliance, can still act with unity and conviction when global stability depends on it. Around the world, other nations are watching closely, not just NATO members, but countries in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa, gauging whether America's internal discord has weakened its ability to lead. If the world's most powerful democracy hesitates, the ripple effect will be felt far beyond Ukraine. Zelenskyy, aware of this delicate moment, approaches each meeting as if the future of his nation's sovereignty hinges on it, because, in many ways, it does. His mission is not only to secure weapons or funding, but to reinforce belief that the West, and particularly the United States, can still be counted on when the cost of hesitation is measured in lives, not politics. A single phone call, yet its echo may shape the next chapter of global security. While leaders talk, soldiers still fight. And the world holds its breath, waiting to see whose call will matter more, the one from Moscow, or the one from Washington. Okay, so subscribe to Frontline Global Alerts and be the first to hear the truth, before the world reacts.